Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and it's my thrill to introduce you to Brigitte Gabriel, one of the leading terrorism experts in the world, providing information and analysis on the rise of global Islamic terrorism. She lectures nationally and internationally about terrorism and current affairs. She's addressed the United Nations, members of the U.S. Congress, the Pentagon, the Joint Forces Staff College, the U.S. Special Operations Command, the FBI, and many others. In addition, she's a regular guest analyst on Fox News Channel, CNN, MSNBC, and radio stations across America. She's the founder and chairman of Act for America, the largest grassroots national security organization in the United States with almost 1 million members to promote Western values. She's the author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, Because They Hate and They Must Be Stopped. Here to discuss her best-selling new book, Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom, is my special guest and privilege and honor to introduce you to Brigitte Gabriel. Brigitte, welcome to Revealing the Truth.
Thank you, Rabbi. Delighted to be with you.
You are one of my modern-day heroes. You are someone who I have, when I say 100% respect and admiration for the clarity of your message. This is not flattery and platitude. This is someone who is devoted to biblical truth, a Jewish believer who is committed to this country that my family came to escape the persecution of Eastern Europe. You came here to escape the persecution of Christian persecution in Lebanon. And I wanted to start out with you. You know, over the last 10 years since your New York Times best-selling books came out, and you devoted your time to Act for America and built this grassroots organization, many people know you as this strong, powerful voice in America, but they've kind of forgotten the backstory, the beginning, and how you came here and the journey you took, and why you speak from experience and not from theory. This is not a hypothetical. This for you is reality. So if you would, for our viewing audience, take them on a journey back to that little girl in southern Lebanon who experienced what you experienced and the journey you took for those 10 years until you finally were able to escape. Take us there and tell us what that was like for you and how you became the Brigitte Gabriel that we look at today, who is a voice for America.
Wow. Well, I was born and raised in Lebanon, which used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we were multicultural. We prided ourselves in our multiculturalism. We had open border policy. We welcomed everyone into our country because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Middle East. Muslims used to send their children to study in our country because we had built the best universities in the Middle East. They graduated and stayed and worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East, even though we did not have any oil. Lebanon became known as Paris of the Middle East, the banking capital of the Middle East. Unfortunately, all that began to change as the years went by, and we, the Christian, became the minority, and the Muslims became the majority. We had the situation controlled, even though we had our little differences and our problems, as 2 different people with 2 different set of values. But we always had the problem maintained until the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan. When King Hussein kicked them out and they all came to Lebanon. And Lebanon, by the way, was the only country in the Middle East to accept the 3rd wave of Palestinian refugees. While none of their other brethren wanted them, we in Lebanon took them in. Once they came to Lebanon, they put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon and started fighting the Christians and declared war on us. What the Palestinians wanted to do is basically create a base in Lebanon from which to fight Israel, fight the Jews, kill them and throw them into the sea. And they were able to use Lebanese democracy, Lebanese open-mindedness, Lebanese fairness, Lebanese tolerance in order to do that. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975 when radical Islamists, and when I mean radical Islamists, I mean the Muslim Lebanese putting their heads together with the Palestinians radicals and forming their own army called Jaysh Lebanon al-Arabi at the time, the Arabic Lebanese army, and started to kill the Christians. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975 when they blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble, wounded, as they shouted Allahu Akbar. I ended up in the hospital for 2.5 months. And as I laid in a hospital bed, hooked up to IVs in both arms, I would ask my father, why did they do this to us? And my father would tell me, because we are Christians, the Muslims consider us infidels, and they want to kill us. So I learned since I was a 10-year-old little girl that I am wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith and lived in a Christian town. I ended up leaving the hospital and going home, but my home was no longer the home I left. I ended up living in a bomb shelter underground in an 8 by 10 room without electricity, without water, and very little food. To get some food, we would crawl out under the bombs, and we would dig out dandelions and different greenery that grew around our bomb shelter because it was the only greenery we had to eat. To get some water, we would crawl in a ditch surrounded by Muslim snipers shooting at us. And what used to be a 5-minute walk would take us hours getting to the spring to get some water. And every time before we left our bomb shelter, just to get a drink of water, we would say our last goodbyes because we did not know if we're going to come back alive or dead just to get a drink of water. And this became my existence. I remember at the age of 13 years old, dressing in my burial clothes, my Sunday best, because we heard a lot of chatter on the radios that we were going to be attacked. And a friend of ours stopped by and he said, Brigitte, when they come to slaughter us tonight, and I believe, we're going to fall tonight to our enemies. He said, I wish you a merciful death if I don't see you. And he gave me a big hug and he left. And I remember, Rabbi, dressing in my Sunday best, my Easter dress, because I wanted to look pretty when I am dead, knowing that when they come to slaughter me, there would be no one to bury me. And I remember begging my mother, I don't want to die. I'm only 13 years old. Please do something. I don't want to die. And there was nothing she could say to me. And I remember sitting in the corner of our bomb shelter, and my father opened up the Bible and started reading from Psalms. I shall walk into the valley of death and fear no evil, for thou art with me. And my parents said to me, they said, when they come to slaughter us tonight, we will create a distraction. We just want you to run towards the Israeli border and never look back. Just run towards Israel and don't look back. You see, we lived 5 kilometers from the Israeli border. And we knew if we go to the Jews and beg for help, the Jews were not going to slaughter us like the Muslims would, because we had more shared values with them than we had with the Muslims. Thank God I didn't have to make that decision that night, because that's the night when Israel came in physically into Lebanon and set up artillery bases around our town to protect us from the Islamic attacks, and started protecting us. We ended up living in that bomb shelter until 1982. I lived in that bomb shelter from the age of 10 till the age of 17, robbed of my youth. And this is what shaped why I am the way today, why I am so passionate, why I am so driven, why I am so committed to fighting evil, because I understand what happens when people turn a blind eye to evil, thinking, it's all the way over there, let them all kill each other. They've been killing each other for 2,000 years. It doesn't matter to me. It does matter, because those who used to kill over there are now killing us, not only in America, but worldwide. And that's why we must rise and work together in defense of our Judeo-Christian values and freedom.
Brigitte, you escaped to Israel. You were protected by the Jews who knew about these atrocities, my people, where our sacred commitment is to the preservation of life. Even the IDF, preservation of life. Even to our enemy, rendering aid to our enemies, the only country in the world that sends warnings and reaches out to enemies and says, we don't want to be enemies. We want to bring peace. And even if we shot you, we're going to send in medics to treat you even though you are trying to kill us. People have
Exactly.
no concept of this culture that my people have our hearts for the salvation of the preservation of life. So you went from Israel and you made your way to America. What brought you here?
I would like to mention something about Israel to the points you were talking about. My mother was wounded in the war in 1982 when Israel invaded Lebanon, and Israel was working with the Christians to help the Christians take back their democracy and kick out the radical Islamic element that had taken control of the country at the time. So as Israel started hitting the Palestinians and driving them away from our area, my mother became wounded by a Muslim shell exploding in front of our bomb shelter. We had to take her to Israel for treatment. For my mother, it was a life-saving experience, but for me, it was a life-changing experience. We ended up taking my mother to a room in our hometown fixed up by the Israeli army, because remember, Israel was helping us at that time, just for first aid basis, to be taken to Israel for treatment. And I remember getting to the Israeli hospital, and we walked into the Israeli hospital, and there were hundreds of people wounded on the floor brought in from Lebanon. They were Israelis brought in from Lebanon, Israeli soldiers. There were Christians wounded brought in from Lebanon. There were Palestinians brought in from Lebanon, Muslims brought in from Lebanon. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought to myself, I can understand why they're treating my mother, why they're helping us. But why on earth are they treating the Palestinians and the terrorists who would kill them in 30 seconds if they had a chance to? Little did I know about the values of the Israeli people. The doctors treated everyone according to their injury. They did not see religion. They did not see political affiliation. They did not see nationality. They saw people in need and they helped. The doctor treated my mother before he treated the Israeli soldier laying next to her because her injury was more severe. I ended up spending 22 days in that hospital. Those days changed my life. They finished giving my mother first aid in the first floor, and they took us to the fourth floor, where they put us in a room with two other Lebanese ladies brought in that morning, one Muslim and one Druze. And we were not in the room but maybe 5 minutes, and I heard all this commotion outside our window, and people were running from the nurses station through our room and out to the balcony to see what was happening. And I remember going out to the balcony, and two Israeli helicopters had just landed bringing soldiers from Lebanon. And I stood at that balcony looking down, feeling sick to my stomach, watching them take Israeli soldiers on stretchers, one after another, into the emergency room. And I was surrounded by mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers of Israeli soldiers who were wounded in the hospital. I didn't look at anyone because I did not know how they're going to react to me. And I remember feeling this tapping on my shoulder, and this Israeli nurse was standing next to me, and she said, "You are new here, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, they just brought in my mother. She's in this room." And she said, "Oh, don't worry. We're going to take good care of her, and everything's going to be fine. And if you need anything, just call my name. My name is Leah." And Rabbi, I remember breaking down crying, just sobbing, because for the first time in my life, I experienced compassion. I experienced the human quality that I knew for a fact my culture will not give its enemy. I realized that the Arabic world feeds their children a steady diet of hate and resentment against Israel that is so far from reality. I realized that the Jews were able to love enemy more than, and forgive me more than I was able to forgive the Palestinians. And I was the Christian who was supposed to love like Jesus taught. I spent 22 days in that hospital. Those days changed my life, changed the way I listened to information, changed the way I listened to the media. And I vowed that when I leave that hospital, whatever I have to do, because I had to leave, I'm an only child to my parents, I had to take care of them, that one day I will go back to Israel because I wanted to adopt the values that these people had. I wanted to adopt their character. I wanted to be more like them. And I was so blessed that I was able to return to Israel in 1984 and live and work in Jerusalem. And that's where I lived from 1984 till 1989, working as news anchor for World News in the Middle East, reporting on world events and reporting on the news. And that's, by the way, when we started seeing a lot of terrorism popping all over the world, that from the 80s. And as I read the news night after night, I started realizing there was a pattern developing, because no matter where the terrorist activity took place, no matter what continent, the name of the perpetrators were always the same: Muslims, Ahmed, Muhammad, Hussein, Ali. The name of the victims were always Westerners, Christians, and Jews: Terry Waite, Terry Anderson, Colonel Higgins, Achille Lauro, the Pan Am flights, the TWA. And I can go on and on. And I started realizing that what I used to think was a regional problem between a majority Muslim Middle East trying to either kill or expel the minority Christians and Jews had become a worldwide problem. But the world was not paying attention. The world was not connecting the dots.
So you saw this firsthand. You realized this was becoming a global problem. What made you leave Israel and come to the United States, and not just come to the United States, but become an American citizen?
Well, I always wanted to come to America. America was the dream, is the dream that became my address. Actually, that's the last sentence of my first book. That's how I closed the book. But while I was working in Israel, I fell in love with an American war correspondent who was my colleague. We got married in Jerusalem, and that's how I ended up in America. I ended up here by marriage. And oh boy, how America has changed in the last 30 years since I came here. I came to the United States in 1989. And I have literally, Rabbi, seen America transformed before my very eyes in the last 30 years. But what really made me become an activist, I came to America. My husband and I started a TV production company. We were, living the American dream, working, putting food on the table, the wonderful life of a middle-class American family, 2 children. And I realized, I made it. I left all the crazies behind. September 11th changed my life. September 11th, 2001 was a defining moment for the United States. But not only to the United States, it was especially a defining moment for me. It made me realize that the crazies I left behind are now here in America. My daughter, on that day, we all did the same thing. We all watched television in horror. We were depressed. We were brokenhearted. We were devastated. We could not believe somebody could hate us so much that they were willing to hijack airliners and use them as human missiles and fly them into skyscrapers to kill Americans. Innocent Americans. But on that day, I remember sitting at home crying, watching television. And my daughters, I have 2 daughters who came home from school on that day. And my youngest daughter, who was around my age at the time, she was around 10 years old. She said to me, "Mommy, why did they do this to us?" And I found myself, Rabbi, looking into her eyes and repeating to her exactly what my father told me in Lebanon 30 years ago. They hate us because they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. Here we were, 2 generations apart. I was a young Lebanese girl. She was an American girl. I spoke Arabic. She spoke English. 30 years apart, 2 continents apart, 8,000 miles apart. And I found myself repeating to my daughter the exact same word my daddy said to me. That day was my defining moment. That day I vowed that I will do everything I can to make sure that my daughter will never ever look into her child's eyes and repeat to him or to her what my daddy said to me and what I have to say to her. That day I was reborn as an activist. I sat on my couch. September 11th happened on a Tuesday morning. I sat on my couch till Sunday, completely debilitated, with completely flashback into my war days, thinking, what can I do to make a difference? John F. Kennedy made a very famous statement: ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Those words resonated with me so much. And I'm a firm believer that no matter what we go through in life, no matter what our trials and tribulation, no matter what challenges we go through, they are all preparation for us to make a difference. For when our day comes, when we are called upon to make a difference in this world, to be used as an instrument of change, that we will be prepared and equipped with the right training so we can be instruments of change in this planet, so we can make the world a better place, so we can tikkun olam, so we can spread the message. that day I realized why I went through all the preparation I went through, why I had to live through war, why I had to be a news anchor for world news, so I can be articulate, so I can communicate my thoughts in sound bites. I know we're not doing sound bites on this program, it's an hour-long program. But for those who have seen me speak on television, people tell me, Brigitte, you talk so fast. Why do you talk so fast? I tell them, hey, in a TV segment, I have 5 minutes, which includes 2 minutes for the host and also whoever I'm debating with. So I know I've got a minute and a half to squeeze in as much information as I can. But this is why I realized I've got to do something for the country. And that's when I launched ACT for America, my organization.
It's an amazing story told by Brigitte Gabriel, author of the new book, Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. Brigitte has seen with her own eyes, experienced her own 9/11. And when she watched 9/11 unfold in America, she knew that what she saw in Lebanon had now crossed the continents, had now crossed the ocean, and was right here in America. And what has prompted her to write this message today is the same words that she heard, the same propaganda, the same anti-Lebanese sentiment, the same anti-Christian sentiment, the anti-Jewish sentiment that she heard 30 years ago in Lebanon. She was hearing today in America, and she could not sit back and be silent. So contained in the pages of this book is the clarion call for America to incline their ear to what she has already heard, and to pay attention and to rise up and make your voice heard. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear about what we're called to do, what we must do. It's no longer an option. It's no longer okay for us to sit silently by as the silent majority. We must take a stand. We must make a profound statement in this country and take it back for God and for country. We'll be right back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, We invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our one-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate, buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Brigitte Gabriel, author of Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. Brigitte, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
It is a delight and an honor to have you here. You write in the book that free speech is the new hate speech, and the right to exercise one's opinion seems to end where the radical left's feelings begin. This is a summation in one sentence of the condition of America today, and you have analyzed it, you have looked at it. We're seeing Twitter accounts, your Twitter account, my Twitter account. I lost 590,000 followers overnight.
Wow.
590,000 followers overnight. On Facebook, I lost 350,000 followers overnight, where we were at 1.25 million followers. We're now struggling along at 175,000, trying to rebuild what we had built in just 19 months. We had built a following of almost 2 million and got snatched, hatcheted, cut in half. Our YouTube views went from millions now down to 400 and something thousand because they, all of a sudden, videos deleted. All of a sudden, viewership deleted. Where I had 475,000 views, it was now saying 33,000 views. I'm going, where did 440,000 views go? What is going on? And you have nailed it in this new book, Rise. And it is the #1 bestseller in Christian books. It's a #1 bestseller in sociology. It's a #1 bestseller in almost every category. And you have a profound message. Bring that message to us right now so that our viewers across the world, and we're being watched in Lebanon, we're being watched in Pakistan, we're being watched in India, we're being watched in Israel, we're being watched all over the world right now because what's happening there is happening here.
Well, and there, if you open up your mouth and speak up against the leadership, you'll be kidnapped in the middle of the night, never to be heard from again, and decapitated. We in America still have a chance to stand up and express our opinion against ideas we do not agree with. And we better wake up now while we still can express our opinion about ideas we do not agree with, because we are seeing the writing on the wall. You know, evil dwells when people refuse to read the writing on the wall thinking it's not going to happen to me. It's over there. We've seen what happened in Europe. Europeans can't even talk about these things anymore. European leaders cannot even talk about these things anymore because they are afraid. They have lost their tongue to political correctness. Right now in the United States, we have forces working against voices like you and me and the voices of those who are listening to us right now, especially in the United States, where we do have the freedom to speak up against things we don't agree with, that we perceive as evil, we perceive as lies. You know, when you stand up on the truth and when you speak the truth that you believe is the truth, and when you speak your conviction and you speak with authority about standing up against the evil, you will ignite a fire around many other people who believe the way you do to stand up with you. And what we need right now within the Christian community, the believer community, is stand up and fight for your right. Stand up and fight for the truth. You know, people tell me all the time, Brigitte, I'm praying about this issue. No. Jesus didn't only pray. Jesus was an activist. Jesus stood up against evil. Jesus fought. Jesus threw off tables when he felt that his temple was being disgraced. Jesus was an activist. If you want to follow up in the footsteps of Jesus, you need to stand up against evil, and you need to speak up when you need to speak up, even if it's not fashionable to speak up. And you need to rally as many people around you as you can, because if we are standing up on the truth, who can come against us? Right now, there's a concerted effort by the left. You know, in my book, I talk about the death of free speech. And in the book, I also talk about the lamestream media, the leftist Islamist coalition. These are the names of different chapters. But in particular, I go into Soros and Soros funding lamestream media. Funding up to the tune of $48 million. NBC, ABC, CBS, the Washington Post, the Huffington Post, these types of organizations. And so we have people who want to transform America and their own vision of what America should be. We need to stand up and fight for America. I started my organization, Act for America, and I named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not wish for America, not hope for America, not pray for America. You can do all that, but without taking action, nothing happens. Act for America. What makes my book so unique, Rise, is I not only lay out the problem in every chapter, but at the end of every chapter, I have a section titled Rise Up and Act, where I give people tips and ideas as to what they can do to make a difference for the country. Three simple things, 3 things you can do under 10 minutes, and you can do them while you're sipping your cup of coffee in the morning in your pajamas sitting in front of your computer. Everybody can do something. And I believe every single one of us, no matter where you are in life right now, you are watching this program for a reason. You have been called to watch this program for a reason. Ask yourself, what have I been called for? God, why did you make me watch this program right now? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to be involved? Well, I can tell you one thing. You need to get the book Rise and read it so you will know not only the problem, but be able to pray about the problem and then be able to be equipped with the tips that you can do to take care of the problem. If you are watching us on the internet right now, you can go to Amazon.com and order this book any place in the world, but specifically in the United States, North America, etc. Get it and become involved. At least here we have the freedoms to be active on the internet, just like you're watching this program on the internet. There are things you can do while we still have a chance, and how to fight for freedom of speech, how you call your elected officials. Make sure you let them know how freedom of speech is important to you. You need to call them. You need to express your point of view. I give ideas in the book as to what you can do. Take action. That's how we can make a difference.
Brigitte, the country is divided, and we're seeing a division which has opened the door to jihad through immigration and migration. We're allowing an ideology to creep into our borders that we have labeled as socialism, but socialism is one step from allowing people the freedom to do what happened in London, and that is elect a Muslim mayor and then begin to create go and no-go zones. And all of a sudden, London is not a city I want to visit anymore because it's not the London of old. It is now the London of today. And if London can fall, then Washington can fall. And all of a sudden, these contrarian ideals, and all of a sudden anything is okay as long as it's not the American way, as long as it's not the Constitution, as long as it's not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My pursuit of happiness, your pursuit of happiness is being infringed upon. Life, abortion, all right, has been infringed upon. So now what about liberty? Liberty is the last one of the three tenets that people are going after. And liberty is that freedom of speech. Liberty is that freedom of expression. And so the three foundational tenets of our founding fathers, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, abortion, life is taken out. Pursuit of happiness, I cannot pursue the things that make me happy because someone's offended by it and they will rise up against me. But I have the power to mobilize the body of Christ in America, and 71 or 72% say that they are Christians. This book is for them as to a handbook as to how to rise up. You know, I remember as in college reading Mao's Red Book. I remember reading books on Marxism. I remember that we were a radical group of many would call us baby boomers. I belong to the first post-Holocaust generation. We had radical new ideas and we made changes. Right? We didn't exactly do it the right way, I will be quite honest with you, but yet we brought change to America. There is a right way to do it, and it is for people to voice, and you are that clarion call. You are the one that's going to glue us together. You are the mortar, and we are the brick that have to be glued together to stop this division and allow this to creep in. Brigitte, how do we do this?
And protect our communities. You mentioned something about Europe and about London, Rabbi. You know, to give you an example of some of why I felt I needed to create Act for America and what Act for America has done. Act for America right now has almost 1 million members. Well, actually, we crossed 1 million members, and we have helped pass 100 bills on the federal level as well as the state level to protect America. But I could not have done it alone. We had to have people like you, like our listeners listening to us right now, everybody saying, what can I do? What am I being called to do? Everyone can play a part. To give you an idea about bills, you know, people say, oh, Sharia law, you know, in England, they have no-go zone. In England right now, they have 85 Sharia courts, which is Islamic courts, operating parallel to British courts that are not compatible with British courts. And people say, that's in London. That would never happen in America. I'm sad to tell you that in America, we have documented over 142 cases where Sharia law was used instead of the Constitution of the United States in 22 states. 22 states. Act for America introduced a bill titled American Laws for American Courts, which says, ALAC for short, which says no law that is not compatible with the United States Constitution would be considered in any American courtroom. And I'm proud to tell you that we have been able to pass that law in 13 states so far. And we started pushing it when President Obama was in office because we knew we're not going to get anywhere on Capitol Hill, not under a Democratic president. But it took the action of many people coming together. And this is exactly what we need to do now. We need to come together. And I encourage people, that's exactly why I gave tips in the books as to what you can do. Number one, if you want to make a difference, buy this book for yourself and read it. You want to make bigger difference, buy multiple copies of this book, buy 5 books, buy 10 books, 5 minimum, and donate them to a library in your community. If you live in a city and you have 4 libraries in your community, if you live in a town, donate a book to every library. Say, this is my contribution to my community. This is my contribution to awaken other citizens in my community that I may not even know, but who are searching for answers, who are looking to understand the problem, who are at the library to check out a book. Put that book in their hand. Give them an opportunity to read it. Let many people in your community read it. Donate a book to your library. If you want to take it a step further, join us. Go to actforamerica.org. Actforamerica.org. Sign up to get our emails and action alert. It doesn't cost you anything. You'll be notified about bills coming down for a vote where you can call your elected official and make your voice heard. Sign up to join a chapter. If there is no chapter near you, start a chapter. We want chapters all over the United States. Start a chapter in your community. Start a chapter in your church. Start a chapter in your synagogue. Bring a group together so you can work on issues in your community. We will train you. We will mentor you. We will connect you with other people in your community who share your values, who share your point of view, who are in love with our country and want to protect our country. That's how we can make a difference. And if you really want to stand with us and support us, if you are able to, become a patriot supporter of Act for America. Become a donor of Act for America. We, like the show you're watching right now, depend on the support of faithful followers and faithful donors. We know many of you give to many ministries. I prayerfully ask you to consider us as a part of your ministry, as a part of your making a difference in this world, and stand with us. Because if it wasn't for shows like the Rabbi, and thank you for supporting his show, you wouldn't be hearing stories like me that he brings to you. We need your support, and I would be so grateful for your support as well.
Brigitte, you have been the target of social media attacks. And social media is a platform where anybody can say anything. But several years back, my friend Joe Newby and his compatriot at conservativefiringline.com wrote a book called Banned: How Facebook Enables Islamic Jihad. And it's gotten a lot of coverage, but you have personally seen how social media enables the advancement of Islamic Jihad, the advancement of a corrosive. We're not talking about an argument. We're talking about a corrosive, an acid being poured on Judeo-Christian values and freedom. And it's being funded by people like George Soros, by people like Mark Zuckerberg, by people like Jeff Bezos, who are funding this corrosive attack on our freedom of speech. And this First Amendment right is now becoming into question. When you have the Council on American Islamic Relations say publicly that Sharia is above the Constitution, that this country enacted in 1952 the Immigration and Naturalization Act that said that you cannot come into these borders if you are committed to a law which you consider to be higher and not compatible with the American Constitution. But all that has fallen away with this liberal mindset that says that it's a land of the free and the home of the brave, but yet the brave wear masks and the brave attack, and they attack with a disguise because they don't want you to know who they are. They're no different than the Ku Klux Klan was when they put on their white robes and they began to attack the African American people. It's no different today with Antifa, with these movements and they have no vision, they have no mission. The only thing is they are against. That is, their only platform is whatever they are for, we are against. You've seen this firsthand, and you've come under personal attack in a profound way. How have you been able to endure, press on, and build this traction and continue to be such a clarion voice in this time of trouble and this coming darkness? Because you are a light, and we too can be that light to come alongside of you.
Thank you. Thank you. One of my heroes is Winston Churchill. And I have a quote of his on my desk. It says, if you have to stop and look at every barking dog, you'll never reach your destination. So I learned from the best and the greatest leaders in the world's history, Winston Churchill, that if I have to stop and listen to the barking dogs calling me every name in the book, trying to stop me from achieving my goal of keeping America safe and secure and standing with our only ally, Israel, I'll never reach my goal. And because I don't listen to the barking dogs, this is exactly why Act for America has grown the way it grew. That's exactly why I keep on the radio and television giving interviews. And that's exactly why we were able to pass 100 bills on the federal level and the state level. To give you an example, in 2008, when my last book came out, They Must Be Stopped, the New York Times did an interview with me. I had a lefty publisher at the time. So the New York Times did a full interview with me, full-page article on the front page of their magazine. And actually, it was the Sunday magazine, their highest circulation. And the reporter couldn't find one bad quote she could use that I said. So she decided to put her opinion as the title of the article. So what was the title of the article? Radical Islamophobe. I'm not just an Islamophobe, I am a radical Islamophobe. Can you imagine if I would have stopped my work back then and listened to the New York Times, or allowed my detractors to stop me from my purpose, from my destiny, from the mission that God had on my life to move forward? We wouldn't have 100 bill passed on the federal level and the state level to stand with America, to stand with Israel, to secure our communities. This is what we do. And I tell everybody listening right now, don't stop and listen to every barking dog. You will always have the naysayers. You will always have those people who are trying to rob you of your joy. You will always have the satanic evils attacking your spirit. Don't let them attack you. Don't let them get to you. Put the arm of God around you, because if God is with you, who can be against you? And move forward in your vision. If you believe in your heart that this is what God wants you to do, there is no one that can touch a hair on top of your head or harm you or stop you from achieving your goal. This is how I start my day every day. I read my empowerment scriptures, I read my motivational sayings, and I move forward knowing that what I am doing is what I believe I am supposed to do. And when you know that deep down to the core of your heart, you can move forward in your day doing what you're supposed to do and making a difference in this world. And I wrote my book, Rise, hoping that I'm going to tap into those passionate, those leaders, those believers, those empowered people who feel I can make a difference. I am my Father's child. I am going to be used as an instrument of change. I am going to make the world a better place, because at the end of the day, Rabbi, when we are on our deathbed, I want to be able to look into my children's faces and my grandchildren and tell them I did everything I can, which I believed was the truth and the right thing to do, so I can make the world a better place for you. I have no regrets, and I hope everybody listening right now, I hope that my message would be the spark that would ignite a fire within your soul, within your heart, to stand up proudly, and stand on your faith, stand on your belief, and do what is right by America, by Israel, by Western civilization, by the foundation of our Judeo-Christian values and freedom, to make sure we protect that which our founding fathers have given up everything, and most of them died broke, to give us the country that we have today. The least we can do is preserve it for future generations.
I can only say amen and amen to this clarion call from Brigitte Gabriel. Contained within these pages are the impact that 9/11 had and should have had on you. But she lived it twice. She lived her own 9/11 in Lebanon and brought that chutzpah, that spirit, that victory, because you are more than a conqueror according to the Word of God. And you don't have to become Brigitte Gabriel, but you are called to support this work and to be a voice in your community. The question is, are you willing to step up and step out? To be called to be set apart, the way God called you to be set apart. To answer the call and to rise up. To rise up and stand together as one immovable, uncorruptible, unbreakable movement in this country that says we are going to defend Judeo-Christian values and take back our freedom. It doesn't matter what they say about you, it matters about what He says about you. And Brigitte Gabriel has been an icon, a voice, a face, an activist who has created actforamerica.org. I strongly encourage you. I get her every one of her updates. I have her book right here in my hand. I read it this weekend, and I have to tell you that it convicted me that as much as I do with 3 hours of live television a day, bringing this clarion call message to wake up America and wake up the world to what's going on, that she has provoked me to envy and to jealousy, to stand beside her and to support her even more. Brigitte Gabriel, you are a hero in my book. You command my respect and my love in every way as my sister in the Lord, and I am absolutely proud and honored to share this hour with you. Thank you so much for being with us on Revealing the Truth. The book, Rise, in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. You can get it on ignitingnation.com. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever great books are sold. #1 best-selling author, Brigitte Gabriel, has done it again. Thank you so much for sharing this hour with us.
Thank you so much. Always delighted to be with you.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless you.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.